What's the scariest encounter you had with a total stranger? I was once driving in the country, and it was pouring rain in the dead of night. So hard that I was driving very slowly and couldn't see any of the signs before GPS. I mean, I had never been in rain this heavy. I had to pull over to the side of the road to try and see the sign to see if I was going in the right direction. I didn't get out due to the rain, so was craning my neck forward to try and make out where I was when suddenly the passenger door opened and a man got inside the car, sat down and looked at me. Here is South Africa. There is a fair amount of violent crime and hijackings, so I instinctively started panicking and yelling and screaming at the top of my lungs, flailing my arms to try and do something, anything to stop this guy from attacking me. He started screaming as well in terror and jumped out the car. I quickly leant over and closed the passenger door and sped off down the road. I was breathing so heavily at this point and trying my best to calm down, nearly in tears. I kept replaying it in my head the whole time, and suddenly remembered that the man smiled at me. It suddenly dawned on me that it was probably a hitchhiker that I hadn't seen, who thought that I was pulling over to give him a lift, only to be greeted by me screaming and trying to hit him. It was probably his scariest encounter with a stranger as well. I dropped my son off at school one morning, and then went to the grocery store with my infant daughter. It was so early, there was only one or two other customers. There was an older man with a walker that I didn't really pay too much attention to that kept popping up in the same aisle as us. I got out to my car and put my groceries in and then was putting my daughter in her car seat when the man came up behind me. He asked me a question, and when I turned to answer, he shoved his walker into the back of my legs, pinning me against my car inside the open door. I tried moving around but couldn't go anywhere except forward, and he started pushing me down to the floor of my car. I was so scared that once he had me down there, he was going to go for my daughter, so I threw myself over her so my whole upper body was in her car seat and wedged myself in tight, trying to cover as much of her as possible. He grabbed me by the hair and was trying to pull me up when someone started honking their car horn. Another mom had been sitting in her car with her own baby asleep and had seen what was happening. Another car pulled up behind mine, and the man ran over and got in quickly, obviously never needing the walker. The police were called, but the plates on the car that he left in were stolen, so as far as I know, he was never found. I was at this rundown movie theater we had in town. Only one we had at the time. It was pretty bad. Turned into a place where the bad crowd hangs out. Walking up to pay for my ticket, and a guy approached me, asked, "Want to buy some Coke?" I said no thanks. Dude gets closer to me and pulls out a knife. "Don't tell anyone." And then he walked away. For a split second there I thought I was going to get stabbed. I left and never went back. I'm late to the party here, but I was once threatened by a man with a scoped rifle while walking my dog. I was out in a field behind my apartment building at night, and I heard a voice from behind me say, "You better run fast, boy." I turned and saw a backlight silhouette of a man on a balcony with a scoped rifle, and I heard him close the bolt. I decided that running would only add tension to the situation, so I yanked on my dog's leash while calmly yet quickly walking towards the closest cover I could find. I immediately called 911, and when it was all said and done, the guy with the rifle claimed he was just showing the rifle to his friend. BS, but I couldn't prove otherwise. Not scary per se, but deeply disturbing. Random dude at my local library accosted me while I was enjoying a new sci-fi novel and was absolutely convinced I was his son. Kept telling me he was sorry, and he never meant to kill my mother, who he called pink, and said some other heinous shit I won't describe. Batshit crazy, but he sounded so rational and calm the whole time. Shit gave me the creeps for a long time after. I was taking a shower in the bathroom of the walkout basement. My 3-year-old son was upstairs with my mother eating breakfast. I heard him open the door and told him, "Mommy is in the shower. You have to wait." The door didn't close, but he didn't respond either, so I asked him to go back upstairs and ask Grandma for whatever he needed. Instead, I see a shadow, an outline of a hand touching the shower curtain, and realize that there is an adult in the bathroom, not my son. I scream and punch through the shower curtain. I don't think I connected, but I heard the man run out anyway. As fast as I could, I jumped out and grabbed a towel to check on my son and mom. At the same time, my mom was coming downstairs to see if I was okay from the scream. The man never went upstairs, and they didn't even know it had happened. The walkout basement door and window were open. I called the police and they didn't find him, just my empty wallet about a block away. They did come back to me a few weeks later to let me know that they caught a guy in the area raping women at gunpoint, and they think it was the same guy. Never been so scared in my life. At The most visceral part for me was knowing he was just standing quietly in the bathroom while I talked to him like he was my son. Honestly, I don't know why, but that creeps me out the most. It felt really violating at the time. I was in high school and worked at a truck stop. One night a trucker came in and stared at me for a long time. Wherever I moved to, he was staring me down. I told him that if he needed anything that he would need to come to the counter and order it. He just grunted and kept staring. I'm not a small person, and at that time I was in football, wrestling, and track. I was also at the gym 6 days a week. I was 190 pounds of muscle and teenager hormones. But the vibes I was getting from this guy were making me nervous. I called up my other co-worker and told them I was going to be in the freezer for a while. So I was stocking the freezers and coolers for a while and then went to the bathroom. As I entered the bathroom, the trucker jumped up and walked in behind me and just stood in there while I took a piss and washed my hands. As soon as I got out, I grabbed the trash bags and beelined outside to take care of the trash at the pumps until he left. My co-worker asked me why the trucker kept following me after I finally came in. I had no idea why. He never said anything. Didn't order anything, just filled up his semi and creeped on me. I've never been as creeped out by a person as I was with that guy. Edit. Thanks for the awards, kind strangers. Only passenger in a train car in Europe late at night. A disheveled man, wild hair and beard, tagged sweater, entered the car and started pacing up and down the aisle. He is talking to himself in a language I couldn't understand. Every few trips, he would stop in front of me and yell at me in whatever language he spoke. I would try to respond, but he didn't know English any more than I understood whatever language he was speaking. He would eventually give up yelling at me and would go back to pacing the aisle and talking to himself. This went on for hours. Really wish I could have recorded him back then so I could eventually find someone to translate it.